Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. So I've been using AI chatbots for almost 2 years now, and I have a weird relationship with them. It started out as a nice tool, but lately it's become almost an obsession, to the point that sometimes I forget how life works without one, and it becomes very apparent when there's a situation that does not allow for the chatbots. I'll get to that in a second. And when did I first start using it? Well, I started with Google AI. I mean, I know chatbots have existed before Google AI, but I initially didn't want anything to do with it, because back then, before Google AI, it was often very obvious somebody had cheated. I teach math at a community college. When students cheat, or maybe not so much anymore because now the answers are getting better, 2 years ago when students used to cheat, it was really obvious. The answers were really robotic, they lacked human flow to them. So one time I caught a student cheating. What had happened was I was teaching college level algebra. I had a problem involving radioactive half-lives. And I gave my favorite real life example. I said that in 1921, President Harding awarded Mary Curie with 1 gram of radium, and I gave a half-life of radium. I think I rounded the number to 2,000 years just to make the math a little bit easier. And I asked the students to calculate how much of that radium still exists today. And I also rounded a few other constants in the problem. I can't remember which ones. But when the student handed their answer in, the student had given the actual half-life of radium to quite a few decimal points, actually. Once 1,590, so even I don't know that many decimal points. It was very clear that the student had copied and pasted that into some kind of engine, and the engine looked at, half-life of radium, and actually looked up the right numbers. Right? It was very clear the student did something like that, because I didn't put the actual number. I wanted the student to be able to enter that into their calculator with ease, so I rounded it to 1,600 or something like that. But that's what AI used to do a lot, and so I kind of glossed over it. It's a curiosity. I'll never touch anything like that. Now, Google AI was introduced around March of 2025, and I almost didn't pay attention to it until one day I was searching something. I think I was looking up an art show venue, and Google AI suggested, why don't you look at this other art show too? And that's when I realized how powerful this stuff is. Now, you gotta remember where I was in early 2025. I had just had a meltdown in my life where I felt disadvantaged for being single. I've talked about the meltdown too many times. I don't want to repeat the entire story. And so I felt propelled to go back into the dating scene. You guys remember that? Now, one particular person that I met her through a friend at a book club. She had a habit of showing up really late. Anxiety kind of issues, ill-preparedness, whatever this, or just really busy. She was working on writing her own novel. And I used to think of her as almost a carbon copy of Eve Curie, Mary Curie's daughter. And the reason for that is that she was half Polish, writing her own novel, got along really well with her mother, and also she was born on exactly the 100-year anniversary of Mary Curie discovering polonium. Right? Mary Curie discovered it in July of 1898. She was born July of 1998. And so I thought of her as a carbon copy of Eve Curry. But she was really late showing up. We were going to see a movie. She showed up hours late. I was sitting in the lobby of the movie theater. While I was waiting for her, I decided to research about the real Eve Curry. I asked Google AI if the real Eve Curry had anxiety. Did she show up hours late when she went on her first date with her husband? Didn't get a response to that. And then I started pivoting my questions toward, just going on a date with somebody who's showing up like 2 hours late already. What should I do and all of that? And Google AI helped me read the situation. And I'm glad I had that. Had I not had Google AI, I could have read it very wrong, gotten angry, and that could have been the end of it. Instead, we're still very close friends. So thank God we had Google AI. But that was my first big search with AI. And AI has been the go-to every time I have a problem. I handle a lot of job onboarding with AI, right? I handle workplace conflict. My favorite one, I was working at a tutoring center, and one day one of my favorite students had brought in a large bag of Cheetos, and I have food allergies, milk allergies, and that's a big problem for me. At the same time, I so badly wanted to tell her to please put it away and wash her hands. I have allergies, but I didn't want it to sound wrong because I was anxious. It was only my third week at the job. I needed the job. I'm an adjunct professor. I was kind of in between contracts. I needed that job. I couldn't jeopardize it. I couldn't jeopardize my health either. I knew if I got a reaction, I had to leave the center. That wouldn't look good either. And I seized up. And I told my students, I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. Why don't you finish this problem? I'll be right back. And I rushed into the bathroom and I searched on Google AI, what should I do about this? Google AI had a few interesting keywords, let's just put it that way, important passwords to use with the student. I can't remember the detail. I mean, I could go search again today. I mean, the answer would probably be even better today because we've had another year of improvements to Google AI. But Google AI had important passwords for me to use when I spoke to the student. I went back, and sure enough, not only did she put it away, she apologized to me. Long story short, she's become one of my favorite students. Now, you got to understand, these things are really delicate because you got a fifth grader who's eating her favorite foods. As far as she knows, that's the best food in the world, and she might not even recognize what's in it. See, if you tell a fifth grader milk allergy, they think, oh, a glass of milk, you can't have that. They might not realize that Cheetos has so you got to be careful how you bring it up, right? But later that same semester, I ran into a conflict with one of my colleagues. What had happened was my colleague, she was 18 years old, and I wanted to get to know her family because her mom is an artist. And I learned that she was involved in some, I hate to go into too much detail here because I'm still working there, but she was involved in some activities, and I got to know her mother. But long story short, she invited me there for reasons that were very different than networking. Let's just put it that way. I hate to go into too much detail. It got messy, and she left the job. I stayed there. I didn't press for too much detail. It was just unfortunate that I didn't get to connect with her mom and all of that. And I didn't press too much. And thank God I had AI helping me with the emotions of that turbulent situation. So I started a thread on Google AI about my colleague leaving. I have many tabs on my Google AI, sometimes one for each circumstance in my life. Right now I probably have 10 that are ongoing. That's typical of me. But the thread went on and on for several weeks because, one thing that complicated it is that she got along with one of my other colleagues. I don't know if they met at the job or if it was before, and the relationship between me and the other colleague got very icy as a result. So I had been asking AI how to deal with it, how to make sure that we don't have any misunderstandings. Google AI suggested one day, after some time, obviously, suggested one day I just say, hey, did you see the turbulent weather today? One day we had a monsoon in Phoenix, and Google AI suggested that was a good way to kind of gauge the temperature of everything. I said it, the colleague reacted in a certain way, and I fed it back to AI, and that was good. Later on, I discovered that the colleague that I had conflict with, it was not a very simple situation. The AI search had pulled up something that I didn't know was going on, and it all made sense. I don't want to go into too much detail here. But that's good. Had I not had AI doing that, I could have lost that job. I could have embarrassed myself. I could have really blown things up. I've had things that were less complicated than that were mishandled by me in the past. Now, where this becomes a big problem is that, do you remember back in 4th grade, your math teacher said you won't always have a calculator in your pocket? Well, that has kind of come to pass. You don't always have time to Google AI everything, right? I mean, it's always in your pocket. It's whether or not you have 10 seconds or the appropriate time to do it. Let me give you a couple of examples. Part of the reason, well, one thing I did was I used AI to help me proofread and vamp up my online dating profile. But online dating has something tricky that a lot of people don't think about. When I'm talking to somebody online, I could have Google AI filter everything that I want to say or everything that they say, right? And then I sit down face to face and I realize that, oh my God, I've lost that filter. And it's a very terrifying prospect. Now, earlier this week, last month, when I was flying from San Francisco to Taipei, I had a harrowing situation. What had happened was I got on the plane and I paid for the Wi-Fi because I knew I might want to use AI in flight. And I started testing out to make sure how the Wi-Fi was going to work. And I realized that there was a significant latency. 10, 20, 30 seconds per question that I might want to shoot at AI. And that kind of bugged me because situations on board a plane can fly really fast, right? Air rage situations, a food allergy kind of boundary issue, somebody kicking your seat, and anger problems. And I got so used to the idea that anytime when something like that happens down here on Earth, I could touch a button and answer them, that when AI delayed by 20 seconds, it terrified me. And that's what I mean by being an AI-holic, right? Sometimes I was recently interviewing for another job. I loved it when it was back and forth email. An email comes, I copy and paste that into AI. As much as I tell the students they can't do that, at the same job that I'm at, that I'm telling the students that not to use AI for their homework, I'm doing it to negotiate with my work. That's the funny part. Like literally 2 seconds after I tell the students our AI policy, and then I need to respond to a boss's email, oh, AI copy, paste. And so that's kind of funny now that I think about it. Anyway, so I am an AI-holic. Yesterday I got into conflict here at the hostel that AI really helped me sort out. What had happened was I lost my credit card. This whole trip has been marked by me losing things, unfortunately. I think in large part because I've gotten so used to the idea that I can press a few buttons on AI and quickly figure out how to replace credit cards. And sometimes it becomes a crutch. I had gotten into an argument because it was 2 a.m. and I was in the living room of the hostel, and it was just way too noisy for me to call my credit card company, especially to give them the Taiwan address so I can get my card. And I was trying to get everybody to please quiet down, and long story short, it could have gone badly. I had AI. AI helped me sort it out. More importantly, AI gave me confidence that I was doing the right thing, and long story short, the staff member who was upset at me, the owner, apologized to me for that and promised to look into his employee. I don't want to go into too much detail because I still got a few weeks to stay here. I'll talk about it later, I guess. But thank God we had had I been in this hostel 2 years ago before, I might have had to move on because situations like that, I often shake my confidence and cause me to spiral. But I'm still bummed out that the AI delays so much on the plane. That's where I really need it, because I have a lot of anxiety as it is. Being packed in a seat like that is the perfect time for me to lose my good sense of judgment, and maybe having that 20-second delay could be some a good practice for me. I mean, sometimes lately I'm still using AI, but lately when there's a delay, I try to guess what the AI is going to say and see how close I get to it. And I'd say I'm right 80 or 90% of the time. When I first started, it was probably closer to 50-50. So maybe that's not the end of the world. This is the Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum.